Hi and good morning. Welcome to another episode of Wake Up Well. It is Sunday morning, and in this next little while, the sermon series that we're going to be looking at is life after lockdown, and looking at transition, and how we are supposed to discern the mind of Christ and discern the will of God in these times of transition in our life, and how the scriptures speak to us and how we are to sort of follow Jesus in these sometimes really difficult times of what does transition like, living in that tension. And I think we can all acknowledge that this year has been incredibly hard. And now as we sort of transition into some sort of semblance of normality, as things start to open up, as we're allowed to do more things, it's really important for us as followers of Jesus, as Christians and as a community, to see what God is saying to us. What is God saying to us in this time of transition? You know, it's transitions, and I think we've probably all experienced different transitions in our life, and they can be really difficult to walk through. I know that's my experience, and it's at those times where I really have to hold on to the promises of God and what God is saying in those moments. It sort of takes us, or it's a period of time that takes us from something that is sort of known into the unknown, and that can be a really kind of scary thought, taking us from where we were to where we are going. And sometimes living in that sort of awkward place, it feels like we're hanging sometimes. We don't know if we're coming or going, but how do we respond to God in that season? So I just want to look at the person of Joshua this morning, just read you two verses. There's a point right at the start of Joshua where Moses has died. He is dead. And Joshua now, who was his second in command, is taking over leadership and transitioning into the leadership of the people of Israel. This is the end of a significant chapter for the children of Israel. So let me just read these verses to you. After the death of Moses, the Lord's servant, the Lord spoke to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' assistant. He said, "Moses, my servant is dead. Therefore, the time has come for you to lead these people, the Israelites, across the Jordan into the land that I am giving them." So one way that we can know that transition is occurring is that something passes, that something has died. Moses was dead here, and he kind of represents maybe more for us the passing of a season, perhaps this lockdown season, or might represent a career or a job, or that a situation has come to an end. This death could also be sort of represented by significant loss, a difficult work relationship, or the mutual parting in a relationship. But notice what God says to Joshua here. He says, "Go into this land that I am giving to you." In another translation, it says, Arise and go to this land that I am giving to you." God doesn't sort of leave us where we were. God doesn't leave us in our grief. There's more beyond sort of this past season. There is figuratively life after death. So we transition into sort of new stages of life, whether that's into young adulthood, or leaving university, or into adulthood, or perhaps your children have all left home and you're left with an empty nest. Even in our careers, in our ministries, in our relationships and purposes in life. God ultimately is trying to get us to go from point A to B. And we have to be discerning, we have to discern the mind of Christ about that thing that which is no longer God's best for us. So after Moses has died, God speaks. God speaks to Joshua. And this is the most important part of our transition, hearing from God. He is speaking to us even right now. We have to position ourselves to hear clearly. And I just want to share three quick things that have really helped me in my own life in seasons of transition. Firstly, we can find that sort of place of clarity by first eliminating from the equation the voices that we know that take us away from the peace of God's presence and the joy of his sort of preferred future for us. Sort of negativity, critical thinking, naysayers, people who just don't bring life to us. Well, they will all pull us away from hearing the voice of God clearly. We need to sort of distance ourselves from sort of small thinking and bitter people. Moses spoke life to Joshua. And in that, God speaks and says, "Arise and take this land." Look for those around you, your friends and your family, that speak life in this time of transition. It'll be very edifying, it'll be encouraging, and I think it will help you hear the voice of God more clearly. Secondly, I think it's important not to equate sort of difficult with not from God, if you see what I'm saying. Some of the most sort of significant relationships God has given to us will have difficulties along the way. For example, marriage can be really difficult, but that doesn't mean that divorce is the answer. God can heal broken marriages, and this requires persistence, faith in God, and willingness to fight for God-ordained relationships, even when it's at its most painful. I think it's important for us to use discernment and to seek his direction when pondering the challenges of a new season. Thirdly, we can discern the doors along our path, ones that he is shutting and the ones that he is opening. Sometimes he wants us to persist in a direction and knock the door down. Other times he is very clear that the door that we're trying to open is shut for a reason and not for us to open it. Using discernment is the real payoff here. And this is my encouragement to you this morning as we go into all these various transitions in our life. If God can speak, then we can hear him. I think that's what I want to say to you. Exercising the spiritual gift of discernment will bring huge sort of dividends to your life and will help us grow in faith in Jesus and as his followers. So my encouragement to you, arise and go into the land of promise. Don't be where you are, but look to where you are going. What is God saying to us in this season of transition? And for us to take hold of it and take hold of our future by faith and to move forward, because we know that we can trust in God's goodness and love for us. God bless you all. I hope you have a wonderful day.